Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Helona. I am the director of the museum. I'm really pleased that we have such a good turnout this evening. And we're here to hear inspiring and interesting insights from Rebecca Louise Law, our wonderful artist that we've featured this season. And then Erin Padilla, our director of learning and engagement, who has been here at the museum since 2002. So 20 years of knowledge and expertise to share with everybody here. But Rebecca has just completed a 2-week residency here at the art school. Of course, she was here in August to do her installation that she did alongside the community here, was here for nearly a month as she put together her installation. And we're going to hear from them this evening, really talking about their reflections of the process that we've been through and their insights of working together over the last couple of weeks. So if you'll just please help me in welcoming Erin and Rebecca to this conversation.
I don't know why I have this piece of paper. I've forgotten my glasses in my office, so it's like a security blanket. But welcome, everyone. As Helena said, my name is Erin Padilla. I'm the Director of Learning Engagement over here. I oversee all of the educational programs, and then also the art school. And with me is Rebecca, and yes, she's been here for the last 2 weeks, working here in this building with our art instructors, exploring different techniques, having many different conversations, exploring ideas, and learning and growing with all of us. So it's been a really great time spending time with you again, Rebecca. And when you were here in August, was it August, and you opened your show, and I know we had this conversation about how you feel about the exhibitions, and normally it's like you hang an exhibition, you have the opening, and you don't return to it. Right? And with a few months space now and actually coming back and seeing the exhibition, how has things changed in terms of your thought process, how you feel about the show, what it means to you and your practice?
Well, I feel like it's a huge privilege to come back, actually, because normally once I make an installation, I don't get to revisit. And getting the chance to kind of go back and visit the artwork, I could go with a new lens. And I think initially I just wanted to just take it in. It was amazing, we walked in as the teachers, as a group, and I stood back because I just wanted to kind of take in the whole room, the presence of the whole space, and just watch the viewer responding and be a viewer viewing the viewer. And then once I kind of went into the installation, I did then have the kind of artist hat back on, and I was like, how's it holding up? So I was like, okay, you okay? You okay? It's like each specimen is like a character for me in a sense, and it is a story, and it each holds time. So I kind of walked through the installations, just checking it over. I felt like the caretaker again. But it was like an incredible moment when I first went into the space to just kind of be a viewer and just see what the installations do. But yeah, I always find it quite an overwhelming experience to revisit all of those artworks, because in that installation of over 1 million flowers, there's like many installations that have all come together to make that one piece. And so I'm kind of visiting old friends as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I know many of us have spent multiple trips through that gallery, and each time we discover something new. And there's something new in this installation, new to you, the first installation that you've done that introduced man-made materials. I know that was one of the first things that we had a conversation was, Rebecca's tells me is like, tell me about marine debris. is it real? And we're like, okay, Rebecca, I'm going to take you to the beach and we're going to take a look at it. And this is the first time you're introducing plastic in your work. Can you talk a little bit about that shift in trajectory in terms of your material and your process?
Yeah, so I'm a site-specific installation artist, which means that I take a sense of place very seriously. And so before I visited, I had seen on television the microplastics in the beach and the environmental issues that were happening on the beaches here. So it really mattered to me to kind of feel that physically and see it for myself. And then once I was here, I just felt like I can't ignore that. And it is a part of this place right now. And it's a very real and a very horrible crisis that is an international problem. And because I'm an international artist, then the reach of my work is further than here. And it is a message that will go out internationally. I'm in love with what this earth provides and nature and, the flower and the seed. What we have on this earth really inspires me. It always has. And to bring in plastic into my installation has been really hard to do. And I felt very strongly that it was something I did have to do here. There's no way that I could sit in denial of what was happening. It is something that I knew I had to do, but not at any point have I enjoyed it. And even in the placement of it in the installation, I really struggled with how to do that. The journey with it, I don't really want to have to take it with me, but it will. The nature of my installations is that I take whatever I have made in the last place to the next place. So this plastic will continue on with me wherever I go. And whatever environmental issues maybe will be in the next place will be in the next installation. It's important for me to actually deal with real issues of today. But yeah, even in this trip, we had a day out collecting the plastic on the beach, and I just wanted to sit in it for a minute and look at what physically was happening. And I just had this vision of the island crying, salt tears with these small pathways of plastic. And it felt really overwhelming again. But it's very real, and it's something that I feel like has to have action, and I'll continue to talk about it. I don't feel like it is a problem just for individuals here. I feel like it is a huge problem across the whole world. And I have encouraged the teachers here actually to use this material as a resource. I don't like working with it, but there will be students that love working with that, and to encourage students to work with waste is actually really, really important. My work is with flowers that had been discarded by florists. That's how I started out. I used a material that people were throwing in the bin. I'm really passionate about bringing value back to things that are thrown in the bin. So I would encourage the teachers here, and I have, to kind of really think about what to use and what to encourage the students to use.
As an artist, you make a lot of choices, and I know you made a lot of choices in installing the work because it's the same, it's this additive, cumulative cache of material, right? And throughout the installation process, peeking in, every time I came in, it was a different thing. It was like, there was more stuff over there, now it's empty, and now it's over there. And I know you really thought long and hard about, where that plastic was gonna go, how much was gonna be in there. With distance, any regrets or thinking I should have done it this way? or it's just right? Or is it doesn't matter anymore?
I feel like I had long enough in that space for everything to be very considered. It's an L-shaped room, so I wanted it to be an element of surprise, that you turn the corner and you have a whole installation all over again. It was really important for me that I create an experience, and one where the viewer could connect to nature. It was the hardest thing was the plastic and also the leis. So I had many leis donated, and each lei had its own story and own symbolism, and each lei carried with it time. And so for me, where I placed them was like its own story in itself. And so it was very important for me to honour them and let them have their place within the installation. So that was difficult too. But generally, I hadn't, like, if I had 1 week less, I think I would have panicked. It was like the perfect amount of time.
No, you wouldn't have. Well, maybe quietly by yourself.
Yeah.
Your one diva moment, right? Thinking about choice, let's fast forward to 2 weeks ago. You land here, and we've had a number of conversations before you arrived for this residency. And in those conversations, it was like, hey, what do you want to work on, Rebecca? And it was like, well, Marie said, I kind of already had my residency 3 months ago installing the show, but we had further conversations and had some ideas, and there was some ideas about the response wall. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so all of the little pieces of paper that had responses in the honeycomb piece at the bottom of the stairs at the end of the installation, there's like, I don't know how many pieces of paper, but
thousands.
Thousands. So there's a lot of response. And in my head, because I knew I was working with fibre, mixed media, like all kinds of different teachers, I was like, right, we'll put all of these responses together. We will weave the biggest tapestry you've ever seen of comments and make this crazy, massive artwork. I had it all in my head. But then I was like, but show me the pieces of paper. So we went to go and see them, and everyone was like kind of reading them, and I was just backing away. And I felt like we were reading somebody's diary, and I felt very much uncomfortable. I did not want to hear the responses. It felt like that process was final. It was done, and we didn't need to go there. And so then I was right straight back to blank canvas. Let's go with the flow. And in a sense, that's kind of been the most freeing thing about this last 2 weeks, is that I've had really special time with each of the teachers, and I could like get to know them, see their body of work, see their own concepts, see kind of what this group of amazing artists is as a group, and what they can bring to the museum and to the classes. It really excited me to see the strength of these teachers and just to kind of learn a few new skills, project some of their own work forwards, and just for myself, I did a bit of printmaking. I'm in a Welsh little pottery community club. I weave on a huge scale. So there's like little elements that I could basically get to know a bit better. And so it's been a really great 2 weeks just because there was no agenda, actually.
Yeah, that was freeing. I should actually contextualize that. So Rebecca's our first artist in residence. The first artist in residence at the museum started in 1965, and it went on for a few decades. I couldn't tell you who came, but some important art. And then there was another artist in residence for emerging local artists here in Hawaii, and that was from like 2008 to 2000, I think 12 or 13. And as the museum turns back on, we've been having discussions on the things that we need to help create engaging programming and exhibitions to support the local arts community and also bring global awareness of this great museum that we have. And so Catherine Whitney, who's here, and Halona, we've been talking about, okay, well, we need to restart this artist residency. And let's bring Rebecca back to start that up. So I like to see this residency is not the residency number 1. This is residency 0. This is the beta test, right? With an artist that we've come to know and built a strong relationship with her beautiful exhibition. And knowing that she still had things to work out during her experience here. And knowing also that we had an art school that we had just reopened, hired a brand new set of teachers, a really beautiful team happening here and trying to rebuild the program. And thinking about how a residency can affect a community and how a community can affect the resident artist. So that was ultimately the goal of this, to see if that could happen in a quick, short 2 weeks. So the community that we identified was the community here, our full-time teaching artists, and then Rebecca's been working with them. So that's what you see here, flanking Rebecca and I. Can we talk a little bit more about community? That's the word, one of your buzzwords, right? And it was in our interpretive plan. This exhibition is about community, right? The many hands that string and thread the flowers, and then also the many hands and minds that worked with you over the last 2 weeks. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So part of my artwork is the process, and I like to share it. So I'm really passionate about local hands being a part of my art, and as much as I can share, I will. And I'll like the local community to be involved and for them to have a sense of ownership of my work, because I think it's working with nature is that it's not really mine, and so it feels right for me to share that process as well. And when I was here in the summer, we had in this room many people from the local community wiring up the strands that you see over in Awakening. We also had days of foraging where people would collect from the local botanic gardens and with permission. And we had the leis that were donated to, and local people could actually donate flowers here or that were from their own.
Did anybody participate in that? Yay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's very much a part of kind of my art, is sharing, and also maybe starting something locally, even if it's relationships, being the kind of like catalyst to something else that could happen, enabling people to kind of build relationships in their communities or meet people that they never knew they lived nearby. So I'm quite passionate about that. But then coming into this residency, into the community of the teachers, I just really wanted to enforce this kind of like, I wanted to encourage them to realize how amazing they are as a group, and just launch something maybe that they didn't necessarily know that they were part of, and just kind of really encourage them to go for it as artists. Of course, they have responsibility to teaching, but individually they're just incredible artists, and just to go for it. Because here they have a community and they have a resource and a space. And I think what they have to show everyone locally is incredible together as well.
So we have the work here. I'm actually going to go off script a little bit.
Okay.
Let's talk about a piece that
Yeah. Okay, so I've got a bit of an obsession with a certain kind of form. So when we looked at the title, Awakening, originally I had another title, Conscious, and we then changed it to Awakening. And in order for me to move from Conscious to Awakening as a title, I really felt like I needed to write about it and then also find a form that would take me to that place in my head. And so I started playing with the idea of, when I thought of an awakening, initially I thought of the eye. And I had been fossil hunting with my son in the UK, in New Yorkshire. And the fossils were all like grey stones that had signs of life that once was. And I was thinking about the human being and our imprint on the earth. And the thought came to me of like the eye, but the eye is like a fossil, like our human imprint on this earth. Alongside that, I had this idea of shells, and then also the idea of seeds. And I wanted to create something that had an essence of the human being, an essence of the sea, and an essence of the land. So I started by making these small ceramic pieces in my in the community studio in Wales, and they actually looked a little bit like barnacles. And I kind of felt like it was telling a story about like our human relationship to this earth. And I kind of started them, but I never really managed to progress. So when my time was freed up for the next 2 weeks, I was like, well, I have this form that I haven't quite got to the place that I want it to be yet. So in printmaking, I was playing with the idea of like the land, the sea, and the eye, and then the same in metals. And I was obviously in ceramics. But Forrest, I said, I'm in this little community group where I'm now so intimidated by everyone that I turn up when no one's there. And I keep getting kind of notes to me telling me what I'm doing wrong. So can you maybe give me a little bit more confidence in working bigger and just like making these forms that are in my head? And so Forrest helped me to create this one up here, which is, we kind of like took it into a place which was more like a cowrie shell, with like an essence of the eye and an essence of a seed. So yeah, it's been really fun to kind of like have a bit more confidence in these different fields, being able to capture what's in my head, and explore these objects further. Because the interesting thing is I'm so heavily influenced now by this island. And of course, there's this huge kind of land, sea, human like thing about these islands, and so many lessons that we have to learn. And the kind of like symbolism of this is, it's very much connected to the installation, but also my time here. Yeah.
Yeah, earlier we had a longer, deeper meeting before this. And we're talking about the form of the eye, seed, all those things. And it's archetypal, right? It's this oblong football, basically. And your themes are archetypal and they're universal. And I think what happens is that I think wherever you go, it's relevant and pertinent to that place because it is universal. But there's that process. Let's talk a little bit about process. The interesting thing about artwork is that the objects, images that we see in the galleries in front of us here are record of the work, but it's just a sliver of the record of the work because the work goes on forever. It doesn't end when you're an artist. And as an observer of you and working with the staff here, in my mind, the art was the process. Like, this is just snapshots of the important things and special and magical things that happened over the last 2 weeks. Same thing with the exhibition across the street, which is a really interesting thing because it's multiple snapshots over many, many years of your experiences all over the world. Can you tell us or talk a little bit about like the invisible work that's around the objects and images that we see here?
Yeah, I mean, interestingly though, my head just tangent straight off to, I was asked when I was last here, like, what happens when you die? And, and I was like, because the thing is, as an artist, you just keep going and going and going and going and going. And I think working with natural materials, though, I hold everything lightly. I mean, it is so precious to me, but I hold it lightly. And with each exhibition that I do, I'm just so happy it's still here. And because it's so valuable, and space is so valuable, and time is so valuable, I'm probably about 100 installations behind. So, like, my head's raced forwards. I have more than a lifetime's work in my head. But with each installation, I can move one step closer to where my head is. But I feel like the archiving is what's really fascinating now, you know. So documentation has become a massive part of it. I never throw anything away. So the dust is archived. I've got a huge amount of dust. And actually, we experimented with just putting it into paper this week as well with Sammy and Janet. It's like really important for me to look at every single part of this material and what I can do with it. And then I think in these slivers, like, the one thing that I really value now is having supporting work about my thinking. Because the installations are what they are, but actually I feel like for me personally, it's really important to know where I'm at conceptually and to be able to articulate it, and have objects and drawings and writings to be able to just progress on outside of the massive installations. But this installation as well is very interesting because it does carry many installations. So I would be very sad if it got destroyed, but you never know. And that's the kind of beauty of these works is, you know, it's here for as long as it's here, and then it moves on to somewhere else, and we'll see, you know.
Another thing about process, we talked a lot about control, sharing stories, past stories of installing works, working through challenges, and then having a degree of control to execute, but also having the wisdom to relinquish that control to allow things to happen. And I think a little bit of both happened. And can you talk a little bit about that and where, when the wisdom kicked in, great things, kismet happened?
Yeah, I think compromise, it goes part and part with being an artist. You always have to compromise, and it's about protecting the artwork to a certain degree. Like, you always have an end goal and you always are moving forwards. But I think in terms of control, you can never control it all. And I've learned a lot of lessons over the years, especially working with natural materials. And also working with people. You know, it's you have to go with the flow sometimes. You can't control everything. And I feel like the older I get, the less control you have, in a sense, and like the more beautiful the piece can be, the more you let go. Actually, I feel like every time that I've tried to control it all, it's never worked, and actually you don't get a lot out of it. I think that's also why I'm so passionate about these community pieces, because it's actually me letting go of control by allowing people in, and it's so beautiful. And it's nothing to do with me. And I often feel like that's the time when it is at its strongest, is when I'm least a part of it. Yeah.
Can we talk about these pieces? I think, because, you know, that was a pivotal time. I mean, I don't know, go ahead and
talk about
share.
control.
Yeah.
So so Amy was my first teacher that I was with. And so at the lunch where I decided I was going to scrap this idea of making this huge tapestry of the comments, Amy was my first person. So I walked into the lesson, I was like, I've got nothing planned. So I went, right, tell me about yourself. And I'd seen Amy's portfolio, and there's this image, which is very, very, very powerful, of Amy walking across a balance beam, smashing eggs with her feet. And I'm like, this is really powerful. Tell me about it. What's going on? And then Amy just was really vulnerable and opened up that she had... You mind me saying? Yeah, okay. So she had just explored some things about her childhood, and she just allowed us to kind of look at that and the healing process of making this artwork. And I said, do you think we could go ahead and go further with this? And she was like, yeah, cool. And then she told me about when she was really, really young. The first connection that she really had was making these nature sticks. And she would find things and glue them to sticks. And I was like, perfect. I've got loads of things. I was like, can we glue them to sticks? Can we make some Amy's nature sticks? And so we started making Amy's nature sticks. And that's what we've been doing together. And it's just exploring Amy's work and going further with that. But at the same time, it was quite a healing process, I think. But very vulnerable, and really that is what I feel art is about. It's about going into your own stories and your own life, and taking what you know from your own experiences and communicating that through materials or through drawing or line or installation. And yeah, it was just really exciting because it was absolutely nothing to do with me. And I completely let go, and I had no agenda, and I was just like, that's okay. Let's do it all about Amy. And actually, it was, it was really strong, and actually it was right. And I had time to go through my stuff with other teachers as well. It wasn't like I couldn't go through my stuff. It just felt like right at the time to go through Amy's work and Amy's practice. So yeah.
I think it was about the two of you, and I think, when we talk about control, to like truly relinquish that, to have that wisdom and give ourselves the permission to relinquish control, we have to have a lot of trust. And I think that was, for me as a spectator over this residency these last 2 weeks, I saw a lot of trust. And I also had a lot of trust in you, because it was like, okay, Rebecca's here 2 weeks, she better make something. She just ditched plan A. And we didn't have a plan B. But things will be okay, And I really think that was a huge turning point in just how we approach this. And we might not see like the true fruits of that labor until later, because that knowledge and wisdom and advocacy of Rebecca and encouragement in this team all this stuff will manifest itself in the classrooms, in our programs, and the work that we do going forward. I really, really believe that. That's how art is, participating in workshops and residencies as a lab assistant or the artist in it. These interactions, they can be so like small or short, but the ripples they create are huge and everlasting, there's a lot of beautiful things that were said earlier today when we had our last meeting together, and it's a really exciting thing to think about how this is going to go forward. Are there any other works that you want to talk about?
Actually, I was just going to say, though, in the first couple of days I was here, Aaron said, it's like planting a seed. And you said that, like, into me. And I carried that, through the whole 2 weeks. That each session that I had with a teacher was planting a seed in me. And it doesn't, and in a sense, you took away the pressure of making. So it didn't necessarily matter what was produced this week. It was about, planting the seed of how to work with different materials in different ways, and putting that confidence in me. And so it actually just made me really care about learning properly, how do you do this, rather than what the end result was going to be. And it felt like the seeds were the most important thing for me. And I definitely feel like your teachers have been incredibly generous with me this last 2 weeks in teaching me. And I will take that away with me. So I'm excited to see what I'll do next. Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions in the crowd? Yes.
If you had allowed the installation to be shared, if you allowed people to take photos and videos in front of it, what different impact do you think it would have had?
Inside it, the only reason that we don't is because it's about protecting the artwork. So there's a space to do it at the end. Inside it, I've been in installations before where people get pushed into the artwork through people taking images. So it's, I think Yeah, it has a huge presence online in social media when you allow like photography in an installation. But whether that installation can withstand that and withhold it for a year, I don't think so. I mean, I was pushed into my own artwork by someone taking a selfie. I don't think it values the artwork properly to be able to really physically and sensually experience that installation behind a camera. Actually, it takes you into a different place that maybe you're not as physically present. So I love taking pictures of my installations and being in it with a camera. I'm not saying that that's not a pleasurable thing, but as a experience with other viewers, it can actually take away from another viewer. So you have to, I just feel like lessons that I've learned over the years is just, if we're going to have an installation up for a year, then to be careful, because you want it to be the same on the first day as it is on the last for the viewer. Hey.
I'm curious as to what you thought you were going to do when you took this 2-week residency on, and what were your expectations, and then what do you feel now? I mean, I think I hear. So what would you recommend for future teaching or residencies?
Yeah, I mean, 2 weeks for me just seems so short a time for a residency. And so that's why I said to Aaron, well, I've kind of already done it in the summer, the 6 weeks. But then I was like, I want to go with the flow. And that's what I felt like, because I knew that there were experts in so many different fields, that I felt like there was so much to learn. And I did say to Aaron, can I have time with each of your teachers? I was a bit greedy, really. I wanted time with each person.
So your expectation was that you would learn?
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to learn. Back home in Wales, I literally live in the middle of a field. And the art community, like I said, I literally shy away from, because there's a lot of advice that I don't always find constructive. And so, I mean, they're gorgeous. They're gorgeous people, but I just have to limit my time in that environment because I don't always find it helpful. So for me, coming into a professional environment of teachers is like, okay, teach me. That's what I felt like as an artist. I want to be taught. And I don't mind feeling embarrassed that I don't know everything. And kind of I had to go in saying it doesn't matter if I fail in my head. Yeah.
What's one technical thing that you learned in the last 2 weeks?
Well, I really enjoyed being on a loom. I want to get a loom. It was so therapeutic. I mean, I'd strongly recommend it to everyone. But I think I mean, there's so many technical things I learned. But I think in ceramics, like just the being able to work when the clay is at a hardness was really interesting. So that second stage of working with clay was really, really cool. And then, oh my goodness, with the metal, it's terrifying. The absolute involved bravery of the working in metal. All of those techniques I will never do on my own. I just feel like it's utterly intimidating. But printmaking, I used to do printmaking, and just bringing me back into that again was incredible. Like all of the techniques with that. Helena, yeah, thanks for that, because that was amazing. and just the speed at which you can do a print. I was trying to work on these plates for the last 2 weeks and literally had this meeting this morning with printmaking. And I was like, oh my goodness, I haven't done anything. So this morning I literally was like doing my etching, I was like digging out of the wood.
Yeah, I met with her, I think it was yesterday, right? And we were talking, and I looked down, and there the plates were exactly the same as Helena gave it to her, gave it to Rebecca 2 weeks. I was like, just do one, and then I come in this morning like, whoa, when did that happen?
Yeah.
And so it's quick.
Yeah. I've literally not stopped. I've been running around like an idiot for the last 2 weeks, but I've learned a lot. Yeah.
Given the opportunity to come back, like, what didn't you learn here?
Okay. If I was to come back, I definitely would. I'd want to learn more in kind of tapestries for sure. But I feel like it needs time. And quilting, I think that's amazing. But yeah, with each of the technicians, kind of like everything technical, I felt like I could just go much deeper, much further. I think with metal, we literally just touched on working with wax, but I felt like, there's a huge amount to learn there. And with printmaking, and the ceramics. I mean, I think that with each of the materials, there's a huge amount more to kind of discover and learn. So it would have been amazing to kind of have a year, but never mind.
I wonder what you think the teachers should take away to give to their students from their experience with you. What do you think they should be doing?
Well, personally, I think they should be doing their art, and then that will inform their students. So as long as they're progressing and also working as a group, I feel like these teachers need to work as a group and then show everyone what they're working on. I think, like an annual thing to work towards would be amazing. I think every student gets inspired by their teachers if their teachers are moving forwards. And I think in art especially.
So they did have at this school an annual exhibit of all the staff. I don't know if that's ever happened for a very long time. You remember that, Harry?
I find it very interesting that you live in Wales, which I imagine it doesn't have a whole lot of flowers, except for particular times of the year. There must be times of the year. So what did you feel about your experience with flowers in Hawaii?
Yeah, so it's seasonal in Wales.
Yes.
Saying that, coming back this time, it's colder. I packed one jumper. Like, no one warned me.
You're from Wales. It's not cold.
Yeah. I think, like, for me here, it was the seeds, actually, more than the flowers. The seeds blew me away. Those quipo seeds that are in the installation that move slightly as you go in. I mean, the seeds here are out of this world. I've really, really enjoyed looking at the seeds. And, I mean, the flowers, like the shower trees, and it's kind of overwhelming, the bougainvillea, and, it's like you see the flowers everywhere, and that's incredible. And that's kind of what, I kind of expected that. But it was the seeds that blew me away. Wales, in the winter, it starts again. The canvas is kind of like wiped clean. As a gardener, you feel like you get a little bit of a break, and then you can plan what seeds you're going to grow. So there's like this winter break. And so there's a slight panic here that you don't get that break, you know. But then the panic in the UK is that in the spring, it's so fast. And you start kind of panicking that everything is just coming and going so quickly, so quickly, so quickly, so quickly. And it's like, I can't keep up, I can't keep up. And then suddenly you get into midsummer and it goes, it slows down. So you, as a gardener, you have this manic kind of like 6 months of just crazy amount of flowers, and then it just calms down. And then you have your autumn harvest, where I would just collect and collect and collect. So I think the wonderful thing about here was that we could forage any day. I mean, I could be here forever making an installation, you know. I really felt that way as well. It felt like, as an installation artist, I'd come home in that sense. Like this was just abundant with material. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I had a question. What's something you would hope to pass on to the next generation of artists?
Yeah, so the next generation of artists, I've thought about this a lot over the last few years, and I feel like what I would like as an artist is to take away a lot of the distraction and teach focus, because I feel like there is a huge amount to contend with. And if I was to give advice to the next generation, it's about kind of how to block out that noise, the visual noise, and focus. And also just spending time. Nothing comes quickly. And it doesn't matter if you fail. You learn from every mistake. So for me, as an artist, you know, don't expect things to happen quickly. You have an end goal, and that's like, oh no, sounds terrible now, but I'm like, my end goal is when I die. So, but you know, it's like you have this kind of focus which is beyond everything else, and just keeping true to that. Keep it, you know, with integrity, just moving forwards to that goal, without the distractions. It's really hard though. I mean, it's like an incredible amount of visual noise now for people that will be absorbing visual noise. So if you're an artist, you see and think visually as well. So I think for me it would be about kind of calming that down. Yeah.
I would like to just share what your exhibition has done for me. When I walk through it, I am amazed at someone that's coming from clear across the pond to this land and to create an exhibition of flowers and plant life where we are surrounded by them all the time. And yet to view it from someone that's a visitor here and creating that, I find it for me that it was an awakening, well, reawakening for me. Because to view the bountifulness that we have here, and yet it exists everywhere. And for you to come and share that here, but also to bring into focus the marine garbage, but it's just not the marine garbage, it's all garbage, all over. So not only are we, for me, to refocus on what I need to do in my life to help my community, to make sure that the bountifulness continues and to go ahead and be here for the next generation. That's what I found about your piece in allowing me to view it through eyes of how can I be a better steward of my resources, of the things that we have here, and to see everyone here as part of a community. That's what this is all about. And I thank you for it. And I want to make sure that not only is it marine garbage, but it's also land garbage too. We have to take a lot more pride in who we are and what we stand for and how we can make our community better. And it starts with a group like this. And it also starts with a person like you that comes here and does something that causes people to rethink or to think and become awakened. So I have to say thank you for what you did, and I look forward to more.
Thank you.
Rebecca, describe this experience, the whole thing. 3 words. Sorry, I didn't brief you on that question.
3 words. Okay. So,
A sense of place.
That's 4 words. Yeah, I think that's exactly that's a good way to end this, right? It's we talked a lot about a lot of things, but it's the reverence of the place and having a good sense of it, understanding that we may never know everything about it, we may never be truly of it, but we will always respect it, And I think that's it's been a wonderful experience getting to meet and know and be friends with you and Andy and Alexander. And I think it was easy because that respect is there. And we thank you for your knowledge and wisdom and your craft and your practice. And on behalf of the staff here, I know I'm speaking for them here, they're really, really appreciative of your time and wisdom that you've given them. And we're going to take it forward and keep sharing. So thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. I'm going to give some plugs. So go ahead and see the exhibition again. I think we have time, actually, if you want to head over across the street to go and view Awakening. And then one last plug. We are still in registration mode for our art classes here. Sorry, I got to do it. We still have a number of classes that are open, 10 weeks, 5 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 sessions. Go to our website and look at classes on honolulumuseum.org. And if you do, you're probably going to get some sprinkle of Rebecca Louise Law from our wonderful instructors. So thanks again, and have a good evening, everyone.